Hello, Ronnie. Oh, but- mm, mm, mm. Hello, Ronnie.
Hello, hi.
Hi, how are
I'm going to
you?
try and get. I'm well, thank you. I'm going to try and get my video on so you can see me. Oops, I think I nearly did it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there we are. Whoops,
Well, Ronnie, it's
lovely.
a joy to be talking to you today.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Glad we've sorted it out.
Yeah, this is obviously my first ever um podcast that I've recorded, so obviously I hope it turns out well.
Good. Don't worry, it'll be fine, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Um, right. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start right back at the very beginning and find out about what led to your career in television.
Okay. Right. Well, are we recording now? Shall I start?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, basically, I started at a very young age. I was 15 years old and I'd left school. I basically didn't really like my senior school very much. They were a very sporty school. They did lots of sports, and I loved sort of acting and singing and drama and stuff like that. Anyway, I discovered that there was a puppet theatre in North London. I lived in South London, and it was called the Little Angel Theatre. And it had opened in 1961, November 1961, and I got there, I think, around 1963 was the first time that I visited the theatre. So it had been open for a couple of years. Anyway, I saw a marvelous marionette show, that's a string puppet show, called The Little Mermaid. And I was absolutely, I thought it was the best thing since sliced toast. I thought it was wonderful. Beautiful lighting, lovely music. It had amazing, beautifully carved puppets, really very artistic, beautiful looking. Anyway, I sort of asked if I could help, sort of things like showing people to their seats and things like that after I met the director, whose name was John Wright, and he was the founding director. Anyway, he said, yes, you can do that for a bit. And I thought, oh, great, this is good. And so I did that for a bit. Then I went home and said, oh, this theatre's fantastic, to my mum and dad. I said, it's marvelous. I'd love to go and join it. Anyway, they were a little bit, well, my father was a teacher. So he was a little bit, he thought, well, I don't think this is probably a good job. I mean, it's more like a hobby rather than a job. Anyway, I said, well, look, I don't know whether I can even join the company, but I'm going to ask them. Anyway, I wrote, first of all, I think my mum suggested I should write to the theatre. I wrote to the theatre and I got a letter back from John Wright, the director, saying, yes, I remember you visiting the theatre before. Do come along and we can discuss what we can do, if we can do anything for you. So I was terribly excited. And I went along to the theatre, knocked on the door and was let in. And I spoke to John Wright. And he said, you know, after talking to me for a bit, oh, it'll be wonderful. You can join us. But the only thing is, we can't afford to pay you. We're only an 80-seat theatre. We've got 5 people working here, and we only just got enough money to, you know, pay the other team. And I'm afraid we really won't be able to pay you. Anyway, I said, oh, it doesn't matter. I'd like just to be an apprentice. Will be wonderful. So I went back home and I said, well, they want me at the theatre. And my father, being a bit more sort of careful, said, so how much are they going to pay you? And I said, oh, they're not going to pay me. I'm going to learn everything at the theatre. And, you know, they're going to teach me all about puppetry. And my father went, oh. And then they went off, my mother and father went off into the kitchen and they came back. I thought they were there for about half an hour. They weren't really. It was only a couple of minutes. They were discussing my future. And anyway, well, my mother had a twinkle in her eye and she said, look, we've decided that we'll give you 6 months, basically 3 months for you to see whether you really like being at that theatre and whether you get on with everybody, and 3 months for them to see whether they can get on with you. So I said, okay, that's up. So that's fine. And as it happened, I stayed there initially for 8 months. And eventually, sadly, my father died in that period, rather suddenly, which was a bit sad. But they gave me £2 a week to help me with my fares. Now, I'm talking about 1964, that sort of time. So it was I think the pound was worth a little bit more money than it is these days. Anyway, so yeah, I spent my time there, and I can show you some pictures. They will be maybe a little bit blurred. They're taken from my book, but it shows you, I'm going to show you, that's the company. That's John Wright, the man standing up. There's the Little Angel Theatre. And I'm the little boy, or the young boy at the bottom. His wife, his wife, Lindy, is next to him. And then there's a puppeteer called Christopher Leith, a lovely lady called Joyce Wren, who is an actress and puppeteer, and John Wright's niece, Mary, right at the very end there. So that was us. And then this is me when I first joined. You see, I looked about 12, but I was 15, believe it or not. And I've got a funny sort of rubber tube in my mouth. And that's because there was a special effect in the show called The Little Mermaid, where the sea witch was making magic spells, and she had a cauldron in the middle of the stage, and I had to suck on a cigarette, it was rather revolting, and blow the smoke down the tube so that it went up the cauldron to make all this sort of lovely sort of smoke for the cauldron while it was bubbling. We had a red light in it, so it looked quite exciting. The puppet you see in the front there is the turtle, who was a rather sweet puppet, and his head could go in and out and everything, and he swam. Here we are. It was a marionette theatre. That means it's string puppets, and that's me holding up the prince. Now, this is the theatre before it had a sort of backstage rebuilt. Basically, this was still in the 60s when I was first there. So there was a very little space at the beginning when I first went there, and that's John Wright and me in the middle, and Lindy with Rapunzel, me with the prince, and John Wright with the witch there. And anyway, that was my starting in the Little Angel. I'll just show you, there's one more picture, sorry. That's the theatre, that was the proscenium arch, and there's some puppets there, all lined up on the stage, and that was us standing there again in front of them. And that was the original proscenium. It's very much, it's very changed now, but that was what it was like in the 60s. So I stayed there, and I worked there, and I learned loads of stuff, how to work string puppets, and also how to work other sorts of puppets. And I also developed my one-man puppet show, and here's the dodo coming in. So hello, I'm the dodo bird. Lovely to see you. And I'm a very old puppet, I'm over 100 years old. no, you're not, Dodo. Anyway, he's the puppet that I used in a show that I did when I did children's parties, and I did, well, any sort of show I could get bookings for. It helped me pay my my way to my mum and everything, at home. It gave me some extra money, and this puppet was made for me. I painted him, and basically he's in the 60s. It's funny enough, he's a dodo bird, so it doesn't really matter. He's extinct, really, so it didn't really matter that he looks a bit old and funny, but there he is. That was one of the first puppets that I had. And then, so I did glove puppets, I did rod puppets, I did shadow puppets, all the different kinds of puppets at the theatre. And then I worked with another company called the Hogarth Puppets. Now, they were quite famous because they had a puppet. I'm just looking up in my book. I'm just showing you because I've got some pictures. I always think it's quite nice to show pictures. Excuse me while I find the pictures. Here we are. Now, that's the Hogarth Puppets. It does say Hogarth Puppets. It's all back to front on my screen, but probably, I don't know whether it is on yours. But there's a man with a white shirt in the middle, and I'm the boy holding the dragon puppet. Sorry, it's a bit sort of a bit out of focus there. And that was Jan Bustle, the man with the white shirt in the middle. His wife is the lady with the white dress and the yellow top, and that was Anne Hogarth. And the puppeteer, or the man to the side there, is a man called John Blundell, and he's quite famous because he made the puppets for Thunderbirds. He made Parker. He made lots of other characters in Thunderbirds, but also in Stingray and other, Jerry Anderson films. So, and he came to visit. And then there's me holding the dragon there. Sorry, there you are. It's a rod puppet, and that's an Australian puppeteer down below called Richard Bradshaw, who worked with us. And I did several seasons with the Hogarth Puppets, but they were famous for a puppet. Now, that's their famous puppet. That's Muffin the Mule. And he was the very first what you call television puppet icon. He was on BBC, basically, I think in 1946, even before I was born. And that's me with Muffin sort of looking up at me. And to this day, I work Muffin every now and again. Sadly, Jan Bustle and Anne Hogarth have died, but I know their grandchildren, and of course they're grown up now too. But I borrow Muffin from Lucinda, his granddaughter, and occasionally when I play, I do shows sometimes at old people's homes, and a lot of the old people remember this puppet on television because they bought their televisions probably in the 1950s. And it was like a black and white screen. And anyway, it's quite a famous puppet. So I was very lucky to work with them. I then worked with lots of other companies as well, which was really nice. And so I sort of learned my trade. I'm not a puppet maker, but I'm a puppet operator. I operate all the different puppets. And one of the companies I worked with as well was a wonderful company called the Clifford Heaps Miniature Theatre. And that was my very first theatre tour, where I toured around quite large theatres, actually. And I don't have any pictures, I'm afraid, of the Clifford Heaps, but it was Aladdin, or Ala al-Din, the show was called. So I worked Aladdin and various other characters in the show. And that was great fun. Then I suppose getting on from there, I went back to, a wonderful company. Funny enough, I showed you the picture. There was John Blundell, who I told you, who made the Parker puppet from Thunderbirds and various other characters in other Jerry Anderson shows. Well, he started a company in Birmingham and it was in the Midlands Arts Centre in Birmingham. And I had a year's contract with them, with John and his company, and I learned a lot of different puppetry techniques with him and the company. And that was for a year, and that was, I think, 1969 to 1970 or something like that. I'm very bad on the years now. But anyway, it was for a year. And then after that, I came back and joined the Little Angel again. I never really sort of left the Little Angel Puppet Theatre. I'm still sort of involved in it now even. But anyway, I joined them and we did lots of wonderful tours. We toured all over Europe with a traveling show, with marionettes, mostly string puppets, because John Wright was famous for creating these amazing string puppets. And we toured, we toured Israel, which was quite interesting. And then we toured America. Well, I wouldn't say toured America. I visited Michigan for a Puppeteers of America festival, and we did again another marionette show there. And of course, that's where Jim Henson comes with the Muppets and all that sort of stuff. So he was there with Frank Oz, who was famous for being Miss Piggy. And there were workshops there. There were lots of other different shows, very exciting actually to see. And then we had a month in Denmark. Oh, my goodness. And of course, we toured all over England and Scotland, actually. We used to tour Scotland in the winter time, when it was freezing cold and the snow. And we were in a big van, and we had all the stuff packed in the back of the van. That's the stage and all the puppets and everything, and the scenery and the props. And we used to sit, you can't do this nowadays, but we used to sit on some of the boxes with cushions on, just at the back of the van. So it was, nowadays, health and safety wouldn't allow that, I don't think. But anyway, we did in those days. But it was wonderful. They were one-night stands, as they call it. We used to play, set up in the morning in a village hall somewhere in Scotland, and then we'd make sure everything was ready for the show. We'd do a show, say, at 7 o'clock in the evening. All the people would come along and see it. And then we'd pack it all away and spend the night with various people who'd put us up in their houses, usually for free, which was very nice. And then we'd have to leave early the next morning to the next village hall, and so on. And so it was tough work, but great experience. But then my television work started in I'm just trying to remember when I first started Rainbow. I started Rainbow in 1973. But I'll tell you a little story. Rainbow, of course, is the famous, that's me, Zippy. There's me with Zippy there. As if he's putting his hand over my mouth to stop me talking, because he's a bit of a show-off, is Zippy. And this is my book called Zippy and Me, which some of the photographs I've showed you already. You can get that in. I'm doing an advert now. You can get it on Amazon and eBay and hopefully good bookshops and things like that. Anyway, I put that away. So I was at the Little Angel, and I've been working there, and I've done lots of shows, and I wasn't making, but some friends were making some puppets for me in the workshop. And a lady came in, had made an appointment to see John Wright, and she was the producer of a new program they were going to do at Thames Television. And she came in with a researcher lady, and she chatted to John, and John Wright said, what did you want? Well, I'd like you, would you be interested in making me, some puppets for this new program? We're going to call it Rainbow. And basically, it's going to be a preschool program. And you're going to, you could make the puppets and maybe supply the puppeteers or something like that. Anyway, John Wright at that time was really busy, being the director of the Little Angel, and really didn't have time to make puppets for the television. So he said, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that, but I'm sure we can find somebody else who'll be happy to do that. Anyway, while he was talking to Pamela Lonsdale, who was the producer, the researcher was going round, and in the workshop, I, funnily enough, had a puppet that was being made with a zip across his mouth, and I called him Grumble. What was it? Grumble Bubble or something? Was it the Hubble Bubbles? I think it was. Yes, it was the Hubble Bubbles. It was a show that I was making for young children for the Little Angel, and I think she saw this character with a zip across his mouth. He didn't look like Zippy. He was like a brown potato with two little black eyes, but a great big zip across his mouth. And I thought it was a great idea to have a zip and zip him, because he was grumbling all the time, this character. Anyway, I saw that I don't know whether this is totally true, but I think the researcher saw that puppet and thought, oh, that looks like an interesting puppet. And I think she wrote it down in her notes, zip for a puppet. That's quite fun. I always like to think that when Rainbow started, there was this puppet with a zip across his mouth. And I thought, I know where you got that idea from. Anyway, Rainbow started, and I think the very first program started on the 16th of October 1972 is the date I've got in my head. I might have got that wrong, but I think that was when it was. And basically my friend Violet Philpott was the original puppeteer, and she worked Zippy, but she didn't do the voice because she's obviously a lady and Zippy's a man's voice. So they got the very famous voice person called Peter Hawkins to do the voice of Zippy originally. And he was famous for doing Captain Pugwash and the Daleks on Doctor Who, exterminate. He did all that sort of stuff. And anyway, he did Zippy, I think, the voice, and there was also another character there was two other characters, Mooney and Sunshine. And Mooney was Violet did the voice of Mooney, a lovely sort of country, sort of quiet little voice like that. And
was Mooney
sorry,
was Mooney
no, that's right.
Was Mooney the purple one?
That's right. It was a purple one. Mooney was, and it was quite sweet little glove puppet. Violet, I think, made him originally, and Sunshine was a bit like Zippy, actually. I think they actually got, when I say they got rid of them, later series, they decided that Sunshine sounded too much like Zippy, and he was similar. He was a bit sort of show-offy, and they thought they wanted a contrast to Zippy. So they actually got, they said, no, we won't use those puppets again after a while. But yes, and Sunshine had a little red hat and sort of yellowy, well, I suppose sun-coloured face. Sadly, I don't have pictures of them. But anyway, sadly, Violet was doing Zippy, and she made the original Zippy slightly different to what the Zippy you see nowadays. I mean, another puppeteer came in because poor old Violet had hurt her back when she was doing the puppetry, and John Thurtle, it was his name, and he came in and remade the Zippy and worked Zippy for a while as well. Anyway, what happened was when I think about the second series, I think they decided that they would not use Mooney and Sunshine, but keep Zippy, but they needed another character for Zippy at the window. And that's when George, the pink hippo, came in. And so, and also at that time, Peter Hawkins, I think, had decided that he'd, done it enough. And also they had a new presenter. The original presenter was a man called David Cook, and he left, and so did Peter Hawkins. And Peter Hawkins had a friend called Roy Skelton, who was famous, of course, for doing the Zippy and George's voice, and that's what happened. So George, the pink hippo, appeared. Roy did the Zippy voice and George's voice. He spoke to himself. I'll show you what Roy looked like. This is a picture of him that's him sitting there with his earphones on so he can hear.
Ron, can you just wait a second? I just need to go downstairs for 1 minute. Is that okay?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
okay, back again.
Yep, sorry about that, Ronnie.
Don't worry, that's all right, Mohammed.
Yeah, talking about Rainbow. There is one episode that was broadcast much later on, and that was the episode called Misbehaving.
Oh yes. Oh, Zippy was very, very naughty in that. That's a favourite of lots of people. I know it's a favourite of yours because we've texted each other, haven't we, before now on various Facebook pages and things. Yeah, no, that was lovely. I'll just show you. I haven't got the big Zippy here, but I've got the little Zippy, and he was in Rumpelstiltskin, and he was also in the gingerbread man one. We had this little one made, and it's very funny because people say, he's going to smile at you. There you go. He basically, I decided that it would be really nice to have Zippy, a small Zippy made, because Jane, who was one of the singers in that program of Rumpelstiltskin, she was going around with a lamp, and she suddenly discovered this little character, and it was quite nice. And also he was dancing, so he's got legs. So there's his little legs. Hello, is Zippy here? So there he is. And and it's very funny because people say, oh, we've never seen Zippy's legs. And I always make Zippy say, I choose not to show them, which I think is quite funny. But he can in this thing. So he's on my finger there. Oh yes, I'm dancing on your finger. Oh look, I'm going quite close to you all. There you are. That's Zippy, and he's quite sweet. So that's what he looks like when with his legs and stuff. I used to have strings on here to make his arms work a little bit, but I took them off because they used to get tangled up. Because I'm going to lift him up. He's a sort of rod puppet, and I've got a handle here, and that there makes his mouth work when I work him. So there he is. That's little Zippy. But yes, Misbehaving was great fun, and there's that one, and people like Zip Man and Bobbin, that one where we did a sort of Batman and Robin show, lots of them. There was a lovely one when Geoffrey was very grumpy and he was telling us off all the time. It was really horrible. And then he came on as an uncle, or he had a different wig and everything. And he was really grumpy and horrible to us. And both Zippy and George were thinking, well, what's going on here? And then he came on later. I think he was trying to say, look, boys, as he called them sometimes, look, if you behave nicely, I'll be good, or you do as you're told, all that sort of thing. Anyway, but he came on and he had a sideburn or a side thing. And that's when Zippy recognized him, that you were grumpy, weren't you, Mr. Grumpy or whatever.
Uncle Grumpy.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And what I've noticed about that episode of Rainbow is obviously when Zippy says, but Geoffrey always lets us have milk and biscuits.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, Geoffrey was amazing, actually, as a presenter, because he was like the father figure, looked after Bungle, looked after Zippy, looked after George. And, he was a brilliant character actor. He could do all sorts of different characters as well. And I think what was sad was when Rainbow finished, everybody, the sort of agents in the theatre world and various directors and people said, oh, that he's, if Geoffrey said, well, I can do that part, I'm a good actor. And they said, oh, well, actually, your face is so well known as Geoffrey from Rainbow. And he didn't have that much employment afterwards, which was really sad, really, because he really was a brilliant character actor. But I had lots of fun on that.
One of my favourite Rainbow episodes was the one called Super Bungle.
Oh, yeah, Super Bungle. That's right. When he was like Superman, wasn't he? Yeah, with the costume on.
Malcolm obviously played Bungle at that point, didn't he?
That's right, because Stanley Bates, who was the Bungle that I worked with originally, he'd left to actually write some of the programs. And I always thought Stanley's writing was really funny when, he wrote his programs and stuff. I mean, Geoffrey wrote them. Freddie Marks wrote them. Roy, of course, Roy Skelton wrote some. And who else wrote them? There was quite a few of the cast. Malcolm didn't. But anyway, what happened was Stanley wrote some of the episodes, and then Malcolm, who was actually a friend of mine before he did Rainbow, and that's when my friend, one of the puppeteers sadly died, Valerie Heberden, who was lovely. She was George for quite a while. And she developed to cancer. It was really horrible, poor thing. And she was really lovely. Anyway, I got Malcolm Lord in, who was a friend of mine who I knew was a puppeteer. And he did George for a while. And that was really lovely. And then when Stanley left, he took over Bungle because he trained as an actor, and thought that was a slightly higher step. I think he did Bungle very well. I mean, he was very funny, and and it was great. And funny enough, getting right up to date, I've been doing some what they call comic cons, where things like people from Star Wars come along and people from Doctor Who and various other sort of well-known shows. And they asked me if I'd come along and bring Zippy along to a comic con. And I'd done that, and I thought nobody would want to see Zippy because, they'd all be after the Star Wars characters or the Doctor Who characters. Oh, no, that wasn't the case. They would queue up and get me to sign a card, a picture with Zippy and me on it or something like that, whatever. And funny enough, this year, I think it's April the 23rd, we're going up to Stoke-on-Trent. There's a Comic-Con there. And Malcolm is coming along as Bungle. I think it's going to be his first Comic-Con. So I hope he'll be Bungle and not just Malcolm sitting there, but I'm sure they'll do something. And also Hacker the dog from CBBC. Yeah, he'll be there as well. Phil Fletcher, and he's lovely. So anyway, that's a little advert for later on in the year that I'll be doing those things.
Another program you did as well as Rainbow was the Fantastic Play Days.
Oh, yes, that's right. That was lovely. That was with the lovely Dave Benson Phillips, and he was presenting. It was I think it was this Tuesday stop. It was like a bus stop. We went on different days, and I think it was this Tuesday stop they did. And Dave was presenting, and he was quite new, to presenting when we did Play Days. But I did Lizzie, the dancing marionette puppet. I didn't do it all the time. What happened was there was a lovely lady, funny enough, who worked with John Wright at the Little Angel. It's a very small world, the puppetry world. Anyway, Jane Eve, her name was, and she'd used Lizzie originally and used her on the program. And then when she couldn't do some of the filming, because they did quite a lot of filming of Play Days, it was a few years it went on. And I used to step in and do that part, which was great fun to do. Yes, no, I enjoyed that. It's interesting doing a string puppet on television because, after a while they had the Jerry Anderson string puppets, but they didn't use the more conventional string puppets.
I was wondering what was actually, the filming like of Play Days, filming like the playground stop episodes.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. It was very different from Rainbow. We had, places where, for instance, on Rainbow, we were behind a table, the puppeteers were hidden behind the table, and we put our puppets up and we did it, and we were sitting on those seats down below, or we were at the window. I can show you one picture of us in the window just to show, or me at the window. When I say me, it's Zippy. Whoops. There you are. You see, there's me, and there's Jeffrey looking, and that was me holding Zippy. I can't remember why that picture was taken, but it was. There's another one here with we were doing an outside broadcast, and there was Zippy and I was out front with and we'd set up the rainbow set outside. Anyway, that in a way that was simpler. With Play Days, I was up on something a bit higher because it was string puppets. You have to be above the puppet, and the puppets low down with the strings working, and so they set a sort of, I don't know if you remember, it was like a climbing frame thing in the set sometimes. And sometimes I'd be standing up there, or it looked as though I was on the same set as Dave, but I was a bit further along the studio, and they set up a special, what they call bridge, for me to work the puppet on. And then Dave would walk into it, But yeah, no, it was fun. I think there was the same number of cameras. I think it was 3 cameras. There was different directors that directed it. We filmed it in Wandsworth in South London, and it was made for the BBC, although I think it was the studios weren't the BBC studios. They were in independent studios, but, a lot of BBC work now is used, independent studios make it, and then they pass it on to the BBC who show it.
Going back to Rainbow, there was another Rainbow series that featured Cleo, the blue rabbit.
That's right. That was Rainbow Days. That was after I finished doing Rainbow.
Yeah.
or Rainbow at Thames Television. You know, what happened was in 1992. I mean, I did it for 20 years. I can't believe it. Such many years. But anyway, the Thames Television lost what they call their franchise. They weren't able to make any more programs.
Mm.
And I think Carlton Television took over or whatever. Anyway, there was a little break and we thought, oh, well, we've done Rainbow for a long time. I wonder what will happen. And the head of children's at Thames Television, he had bought the rights to Rainbow, and he decided to make his own Rainbow programs. And he had a company called Tetra Films. And basically, I'm just going to show you. I think I've got a DVD not too far away. I'm getting up now. I'm going away. Where is it? Here we are. Oops, I found it.
Oh,
There was a this was a VHS one that they made a few years ago. Now I don't think there's any DVDs of them, unfortunately. But that's Cleo, the rabbit you talked about, and there's Zippy and the different bungle, and the George was the one who looked more or less the same. Zippy had different eyes. They made sort of eyes that slightly moved sometimes. But it was popular, but it wasn't as popular as. Excuse me, I'm sitting back down again on my seat. It wasn't as popular as the Rainbow that we did in Thames Television. But you know, we made a few series of it because I mean that one was. How many programs on there? I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, I'm just looking. Gosh, that.
Sorry, Ronnie. Unfortunately, I'm running out of them.
Oh, are you? Oh, sorry.
So.
Oh, well, I'll be quick. So anyway, yes, that was Rainbow, and then of course I've worked on Sooty and Sweep as well, and I'm going to show you quickly Sooty and Sweep before is your time. How much time have you got?
It said about 2 minutes on them.
Oh, right, there you are. Sooty's saying hello to you.
Hello, Sooty.
He's there.
Oh,
and I'll quickly show you Sweep if you've only got 2 minutes. Oh, wait a second.
I can actually do good sweep. I can actually do good sweep impression.
Indeed, there you are. There he is. He says, "Oh, there's his brother."
Oh, hello, Sweep. Hello.
There he is.
Right. Hello, Sweep. Hello.
There he is. Oh, off you go, Sweep. That's it.
Yeah, Ronnie, it has been an absolute joy to chat to you.
Oh, thank you.
Today. And thank you for taking part in my podcast. Like I said, this is the first time I've done it, but I really appreciate the time you've taken out of your day to take part. So thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to talk to you, Hamid. And we haven't. I mean, it's great that we're actually talking rather than typing messages on Facebook. But good luck with all what you do, and I hope the podcast really works well and you get lots of interesting people to talk to. That'd be great.
Yeah, so do I. I am. Obviously, this is the first one. I'm going to try and get a few more celebrities on, like maybe
lovely,
Dave Excellent, and whatever. Well, Ronnie, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a nice day.
Thank you, and you as well. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ronnie. Bye. Bye. Now I have with me here a very special guest. I'm delighted to be hosting an interview with the one and only Elizabeth Frost. So here we go. Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining.
Hang on. I'm not muted. Hello. Hiya.
Hiya.
Let me just turn you off a little bit. There we go. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly, yes.
Good.
So how are you?
Oh, all right. Yes, slightly flustered. I've been trying to put together an IKEA desk. And just following the instructions is hard enough. And you get so far and think, oh my God, have I done it the wrong way around? However, I think I've done it right. So it's not finished though. I was hoping to get it all done by now, but it's not. So never mind.
Right. So thank you very much for joining my podcast.
That's all right. No problem.
And what I always like to do is I always like to start from the very beginning, like talk about your background and what led to you in wanting to present children's television.
Right. Okay. Well, let me just adjust the view because it's a little bit. Uh, let's do gallery. That's better. You're a bit bigger now. Um, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the very beginning. Well, um, I went to university, or Polytechnic as it was then, and did a performing arts degree. Where I majored in drama, but when I came out, I felt I wanted to do something a bit more. I wanted a bit more of a formal training, so I then did a postgraduate at drama school. But I suppose I've always been I've always been interested in working with children. My mother used to run a nursery school, and I think that's probably came for it. So I kind of grew up with, oh, I don't know, collecting bottle tops and toilet roll inserts, and my dad would spend Sundays trying to work out how to make a snowman out of the inside of a kitchen roll or something that they could do the following week. So the other kind of making things and being around with young children, I think I've always had a propensity for that. Um, and I also, my mother was involved with the puppet group um, in Totnes, where I come from, in Devon. And I'd sort of helped out and done bits and pieces with her as well. So when I left drama school, my first job was with a puppet theatre, with Norwich Puppet Theatre, working on a Christmas show there as a puppeteer, which wasn't something I'd ever done professionally before, but it was quite fun. Um, and that taught me a lot. And it sort of began to take me, if you like, into the world of children's theatre. I think there's always been a bit of a snobbery in the theatre world about doing work for children. Um, in the sense of it, sort of people, certainly in the old days, would see doing theatre and education as it was then, or children's theatre work as something you do before you get a proper job. However, the foray into the world of puppet theatre, I think, led me into begin to appreciate the value of the work for young children. And fairly soon after that, I joined a touring children's theatre called Lambeth Children's Theatre, and I spent several years with them doing various different shows, working mostly in primary schools. So I had a very good background in working with young people, from sort of nursery up to what would now be year six. Now, with the TV presenting, it came as a bit of a sort of offshoot, really. I'd never done any TV before I did play days. And as far as I can remember, I was trying to remember how I actually stumbled across the job in the first place. I had been to see an agent and taken my CV and talked and stuff. And she sort of said, "Oh dear, we're far too big for you. But these people are looking for presenters at the moment." And she handed me a sort of piece of paper which had Felgate Productions, as it was then, written on it, and phone number. And I pursued it. And it turned out they were looking for someone to play, now I can't remember the name, Dotty, that's right. A character called Dot. It was the Dot Stop. So it's in the early days of Playdays, or Play Bus, as I think it might have been then, before it became Playdays. And so I did an audition for the Dot Stop. I didn't get the part, but I think I must have been put on some sort of approved list or something. I'd auditioned for Cynthia Felgate, who was a very big mover and shaker in children's television, and the value of, good television for children. So I can't remember how many years later, but I then got a call out of the blue sometime afterwards, asking me if I'd like to audition for the Playground Stop, which I did. And I think because of they were looking for someone, the Playground Stop, I don't know if I'm sure you've seen it, videos of it. They, from time to time, would have children, but it was working with children, if you like. So you'd have kids in the studio, or you'd be out on location with children. Whereas some of the other slots were more just the characters or just the puppets. The Playground Stop was always very much a kind of doing with the kids thing. And it's something Dave had been doing for a while, Dave Benson Phillips. But I think they needed someone else to sort of broaden it out a little bit as well. So, yes, I auditioned. I had to, it's a long time ago, but I think part of the audition I had to do some work with some real live kids and get them to do something, tell them the story and get them to do some sort of activity. And yes, and then I got the job, which I was amazed at and delighted. Um, it was, as I say, I'd never done any TV before, so it was probably the scariest thing to date that I had done. Um, we the way the playground stop work would be half the program would be in the studio, and then the other half would be out on location somewhere. Um, so yeah, I landed in the studio to do my first stage recording with the script, terrified. Um, and the voice comes down from the gallery, just be yourself. Suddenly you have no idea what yourself is, what it even means. And my first line was to introduce myself to camera, saying, "Hello, I'm Elizabeth." And well, I've never watched that episode back because I think I was probably I was absolutely terrified. But I did find that working with the kids actually made it much easier because I was on sort of terra firma with that. So it took me a while to get used to the whole presenting thing. I suppose prior to that, I'd hidden either behind a puppet or behind an actor, certainly behind a character. And here I was having to be just me, or a sort of heightened version. So it did take quite some time to for me to sort of get used to it and feel comfortable with it. I always think now I would make a far, far better presenter than I did in whenever I was in my 20s or whatever I was when I was doing it. Because, as you get older, you get a much greater sense of self and, you're much more confident. But there we go. No one would employ me at my great age now for presenting children's TV. But it was quite a shock to the system. So that's kind of how I got into it, really.
Very interesting. And also, Elizabeth, talking about play days, one of the things you did on play days with Playground Stop was Makaton Sign Language.
That's right. Yes. Yes. And I got very interested in that. Dave Benson Phillips was also very interested. And I enjoyed the fact that, I start waving my hands around now. I enjoyed the fact that every week there was a rhyme that we would sign. And Makaton, I think, was in fairly early days then as well. There was a very lovely lady who was part of the team who sort of set it all up. I'm afraid her name escapes me now, but she's living near Colchester in Essex. And I would go to her house a few days before filming, and we would go through the rhyme, and she would teach me the signs, which I thought was a very good thing. I very much enjoyed it. I had when I'd been at Poly at University of Middlesex, I had worked with a deaf actress there, who I directed her in her show. We were very good friends anyway. A lady called Jenny Seeley, who later went on to, and still is, she's the artistic director of Grey Eye Theatre. And although Jenny didn't sign, it was, I think from early on, I'd sort of become aware of different ways of communicating. Because when I was working with her, I had to find different ways of, so she could see me if she was lip reading and things. So it opened my eyes, if you like, to different ways of being, and different ways of communicating. So it was fairly natural going to Makaton. It sort of sparked my interest, and I actually then went on while I was doing the series, the programs. I went on and did a couple of courses on Makaton. I think I got my first couple of qualifications using it. And then after that, I can't remember whether I was still doing Playdays or not at the time, but I did then go on and to the City Lit and do some work or do some learning, a qualification with a BSL. And I did do a little bit of work as a note taker for the City Lit for students. I think I've always had a fairly good sense of kind of visual. I was always into visual theatre and physical theatre and that sort of thing. And I think that really helped certainly with the sort of the idea of making pictures with your hands, if you like. So yes, that was the Makaton. I found that was a new thing that I'd never come across before. And now I'm delighted to see in schools and things it's used very, very widely. I think it's an extremely good system or communication system. And it's used very widely, and I still encounter it. And from time to time, I still use a little bit of signing, if I remember it. So yeah, that was the Makaton involvement.
What I also wanted to ask you, Elizabeth, what was it actually like working with Lizzie, the puppet?
I'm going to let you into a secret. We never really met formally. Lizzie the puppet, who was, yes, come on everybody, let's move to the music. She actually filmed her segments on a completely different time and in a completely different place to me, I'm afraid. So when in the studio, I'm going, hello, Lizzie. There's actually nobody there. I don't want to shatter any illusions, but yes, she's not actually there. So I'm afraid I very rarely, I did see the puppets on occasions, but I didn't actually get to work with her, I'm afraid. So yeah, sadly, because yeah, also, though, I have to say, with the bit of puppetry that I'd done already, seeing Lizzie and the Lizzie work, I did then go and do a course in at the Little Angel in using marionettes. So, you know, Playdays was an inspiration on many levels for me.
There's something else I wanted to ask you. And what I wanted to know is, what was it actually like, you know, filming the Christmas episodes of Playdays?
Always good fun. Always good fun. I mean, I think, you know, particularly when you have something like Christmas or a summer special, there would be great excitement. I mean, obviously, they're done quite a few months in advance, months usually, I think. I'm going back a long way now. So you have to kind of fake it a little bit because, of course, it's not Christmas. It's probably more likely September or October. And that can be a bit confusing because, as I say, when you've got real children there, and they're very young children. I mean, the children we used in the studio were a little bit older than the children the program was aimed for, just because of you know, being able to not be too overawed by the whole situation, the whole setup. But yes, I mean, it's quite hard for them to sort of. We just all had to pretend. So you can, you know, I would talk to them beforehand, you know, a little bit about what we were going to do and how we're going to pretend that it's Christmas, how exciting it all would be. Summer specials were slightly easier because you'd be actually outside in the sunshine, hopefully, if the weather was good. So yeah, I mean, all these things are a great fun. I remember there was a Christmas one we recorded at Warwick Castle, and that was great. Except it's very, very dim memories, but I was we were having some sort of feast, I think, and I was a vegetarian, or I'm a vegetarian, and that was slightly awkward because we were supposed to be tucking into sort of pies and things. So yes, I can't remember how we got round it. I probably just ate some bread, but yeah, but that was fun. It was fun, always fun being out on location as well, particularly somewhere like Warwick Castle.
I actually remember one of the puppet characters on Playdays or Playground that was the one you puppeteered, and that was Ruby.
Yeah, I've still got Ruby, actually. She's in my loft. Yes, there was lovely Ruby. There was Ruby, and then after Ruby, I had a puppy. I can't remember what the puppy
Dolly
was
the
called.
dog.
There we go. Yeah, thank you. These in the loft as well. Yes, and I think I'm right in saying that Ruby the puppet was made by the lovely Christina Stevenson, who was a designer on the program at the time, and now is an extremely successful children's book author, and makes those wonderful props for puppets and things for her book events at book festivals. But yes, Ruby, yeah, she was a glove puppet, a hand puppet. It was often quite awkward to sort of, you know, where it's going to sit, and she didn't have a moving mouth, so you had to, unlike Chester, Dave's puppet, who could do all that kind of sort of stuff. Ruby didn't. She was kind of like that, so therefore you had to take a bit more movement into the head and into the hands, like that, and so that gives a bit more strain. But it was that, again, the puppeteering on the TV there then led me on to, a few years later, working for a television company up in Cardiff for several years, where we made hundreds of children's TV series, all with puppets, which all got sold abroad. So I'm not quite sure what happened to them all or where they've been. I've hardly seen them. But yeah, I spent many years then as a TV puppeteer, which I suppose Playdays was a stepping stone to that.
Also, what I wanted to know, what was it actually like? Did you ever work with Stuart Bradley?
Yes, I did. Now he came in and did some stories, I remember. There was one about a triangle, which was a bit weird. Um, I'm quite sure he'd written the triangle story. I remember him sitting there with a sort of stuffed triangle on his I think it was a triangle on his leg, saying, "This is my favorite toy." And you really? But anyway, yeah, no, I mean he was lovely. I mean everybody was lovely, really. It was, you know, in some ways you're sort of given the excuse to in some ways behave like a child, as in enjoy the playing. And I think that was one of the points of the program, was enjoying the makes and the playing and sort of being with the children. Not, obviously not behaving like a child completely, stamping my feet and crying when it all went wrong. But there was a very nice atmosphere, and we, particularly when we had the children there, it was Stuart obviously added to this. We're trying to really create because the children were so young that we used, they couldn't fake it completely. If they weren't engaged, the camera could see that. So someone like Stuart, again, reading a story would be very good at actually engaging with them as well as engaging with the camera too.
Because Playdays was a preschool program, I was wondering what was it like doing a program, for nursery children?
Well, I loved it, because I'm very comfortable with that sort of age group. As I say, having grown up with a mother running a nursery school playgroup, I was very comfortable with little ones. So yes, I mean, it was quite sweet because I'd find sometimes if I'd be on a train or a bus or something, and toddlers would kind of come up to me and just talk. And I think it's because they would know they knew my face. They would know me. Obviously, they didn't know me, but they didn't have the kind of inhibitions because they'd see you and just think you're familiar. So just naturally would come and chat to me, which I found very charming. I like that age group very much. When my son was that sort of age, it was lovely. There's a real charm, I think, in that age where they're sort of discovering the world. It's really beautiful, and they get so excited about things, and that interest in all sorts of different things is wonderful. Many years later, I worked with teenagers, and the contrast, where the sort of lack of enthusiasm to sort of do anything, is very marked. So yeah, no, I really enjoy working with very little ones.
I've actually got something I really want to show you, Elizabeth, something that you may have seen before, and
oh yes. Oh, jolly good on video. You see that dates it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Look, oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
I have still seen Dave from time to time. We're Facebook friends, but also I've bumped into him. I bumped into him at the Edinburgh Festival a few years ago, where he was doing a show, and that was lovely. It was lovely to see him. He doesn't change. He's still bouncing off the walls.
How long did it actually take, to film like a lot of Playdays episodes? Because I believe you had to film an awful lot, didn't you, before transmission?
Yeah. We would film them in parts. So as I say, the episodes tended to be, I think, half an episode with one of us in the studio. The other half would be the other one out on location somewhere. So if you're in the studio, then sometimes I could film 3 episodes in a day because they would be sort of half episodes. 2 would be more comfortable, which is quite hard work. It's keeping up the energy, particularly, as well as keeping up the energy of the kids you're working with. On location, it would take quite a lot longer, because there's many more things to take on board. You haven't got, the lights and the cameras all set up for you. So location episodes would take longer, maybe a couple of days. We filmed quite a few of them in and around Bristol, because one of the directors I worked with lived down there and had lots of contacts. So I remember filming in a primary school one weekend, which was actually quite good because it meant it was quiet, but then we brought some children in to work there too, but it wasn't too distracting. But it could take quite a long time. And particularly when you're working with the children, you have to sort of, it takes a while for them to be comfortable, and then for you to show them what they're going to be doing and have a few practice runs and that sort of thing. And it's a balance between, rehearsing, but also keeping their energy up so that they've got time for the take. So sometimes it would take a while, but the studios we could knock off, as I got more used to it, we could knock off much more quickly.
How many filming years did you do the Playground Stop for?
How many years?
Mm.
I think it was about 2 or 3. I think I was doing it for. I can't really remember. It all came to a rather abrupt stop, and play days were still going on. But that's the nature of the world of TV. But yeah, it was a couple of years, I think.
Because later you had people like Chris Jarvis, Zoe Ball, and who else? And few of the other presenters. I can't remember their names, but yeah.
Yes, I think Zoe Ball sort of took over from me, young Zoe Ball.
Yeah.
And Chris Jarvis came along. Yes, I mean he's made a great career of children's TV. So yes, I mean the nature of the beast, sadly, is that you go along for a while and then for no rhyme or reason things get you go and somebody else comes along. So that's that. But I made a lot of friends through it. Ellie Darville, who was Wybird, I then worked with in this this company I worked with for in Cardiff. I was working with Ellie there, so we were both puppeteering. That was quite fun. And another, Nick Mercer, he was on the Playgrounds. No, I'm Playground Stop. The Roundabout Stop, I think. I can't remember what he played. He's another one who I'm still very good friends with. And yeah, there's a few others. So there were quite overall there were quite a lot of people involved with Playdays, but the nature of the way it was filmed, the Playground Stop particularly, we sort of didn't really see many of the others other than the Christmas parties and things.
One of the episodes of Playdays, the Wybird stuff I seem to remember is the one, I don't know if you remember it, it's one where Charlie had like a big heavy box and he like put it down or something and had like an accident with it.
I don't remember that, I'm afraid. That'd have to be something you'd have to ask Ellie about.
Yeah, will do.
I'm sure she'd remember it.
Yeah. Did you also get to work with Will Brenton and Ian Lachlan?
I did, yes, which is interesting because they then went on to have a terrific success with Tweenies. Yes, actually, Will Brenton was an assistant director on several of the episodes, I remember. And there was one episode that he then directed completely himself, which was one we did about pets, I think. I remember taking my cat to the location and having to get to walk through long grass, which was a nightmare because he bolted and was cornered trying to climb the perimeter fence by the cameraman. But yes, Will Brenton, that was lovely, actually. Lovely then seeing Will going on to have such success. Ian, I didn't actually work with, but I think he was involved with Playdays. And I think it was their relation meeting there that sort of they went on and did Tweenies together. So yes, it was a sort of a good springboard, I think, for them.
Also, talking about the Playground Stop, the day after that was the Roundabout Stop, wasn't it?
Yes, I think so.
I was wondering what was it like working with Robin Fritz, Clive Duncan, and what's the other one? Andy Hockley.
I'm afraid I never really saw them. As I say, we were kind of, if you were in filming, then you'd film your stuff and then you'd be out and the next lot would be in. So we didn't, sadly, the only time when all the Playdays people kind of got together would be the Christmas parties. I think the Roundabout Stop kind of had a bit more fun and a bit more of a social life because there were quite a lot of them involved with it and people coming in and out. Whereas for me and Dave, I mean, I hardly ever saw Dave. even though I'd be handing over to him supposedly. But yeah, we hardly ever saw each other. And we did a few things together, but we were quite separate in a way, sadly. So I'm afraid I didn't really work with them.
So, when was the filming? Like, did you normally finish filming in about October, November, for the Christmas break and start again in January, or?
I think so. To be honest, I really can't remember. It was a long, long time ago. But yes, I think so. I think certainly. I mean, it wasn't all year. There were breaks in between shooting schedules. So because I would do other jobs as well. I work a lot and still do actually for Polka Theatre in Wimbledon, children's theatre. And I remember doing a show. I think I did a Christmas show in between Playdays commitments.
Right.
So yes, there would be quite big breaks between them.
Well, Elizabeth, that's all I've got to ask you, but it's been a joy chatting to you today, and thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
And
thank you very much. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Now, I am delighted to have with me a very special guest, and it's somebody who I didn't have a kazoo, so please give a warm welcome to Vo Lech. Hello, Vo.
So I just sent you a message saying they're having any problems, but you're okay.
Yeah. How are you, Vo?
I'm good. I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Great. Well, what would you like to know?
I'd like to talk to you about, obviously, Channel 5's Milkshake Have a Kazoo.
Yeah, sure.
That was a great show, wasn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good fun. Yeah, it was good fun. It was a long time ago, of course. Now,
Yeah,
how many years? What, I mean, 25 years more? I mean, it was
25
when
years ago.
it was when Channel 5 first started.
Yeah,
So that's a long time. Yeah.
yeah.
So how old were you when it started?
Ooh, it was in about, when was it? March 1997.
Right.
So I was about 8 then, I think.
Right.
Mm,
So that's when you first started watching it, obviously. Yeah.
yeah.
Great.
I've seen some
Right.
episodes on YouTube, actually, though. Some really
Yeah.
good ones. And one of them has got one of my favourite songs on it, the one about the windmill.
Oh, that's a nice one. We live in the windy mill. It's a nice place to be. Have I? Hang on. It's been a long time since I played that one. Dum dum. We live in the windy mill. It's a fine place to be. Up here on the hill, it's up in good company. Weather-wise, it's a windy place, and that's why it's great. We live in the windy mill, and we're all good mates. And it goes round and round and round, round and round and round. Yeah, I remember that one. Nice one. Yeah, nice. I was pleased with that one. That's it.
What was it actually like, though,
Yeah.
working with
Yeah.
Joe Greco as
Yeah.
Messi?
Yeah. Well, he was very funny. I mean, he was a natural comedian. Joe was. I mean, I haven't seen Joe or I saw Jason a few years ago. I was down on the south coast at a folk festival, and I saw met Jason down there. He was doing the same festival, but that was a few years ago. But I haven't seen Gabrielle since Have a Kazoo, and I haven't seen Joe. But Joe was just a natural comedian. I mean, he was funnier. Joe was funnier off stage. He was funny as Messi, but he was actually funnier off stage, like in between, during rehearsals. He'd have us laughing a lot. Very talented guy. Yeah, love him. Yeah.
Right. It's now on to a burning question.
Yeah.
Please, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your background and what led to you in wanting to present to children?
Okay. Well, I've been playing the guitar since I was about 14, which is a long time ago. I mean, a long years, centuries ago. And then I I played the guitar then. I played in folk groups. I played in rock and roll bands. I played electric guitar. I played drums for a little while. I played bass for a little while. I played keyboards for a while. And when I got married, I had two kids, two boys. And my wife at the time and we used to go and play songs at their play groups. We used to do things like songs like the wheels on the bus. And, the wheels on the bus go round and round, things like that. And eventually, I must admit, I got bored singing the same songs all the time. Postman Pat, Postman Pat. Those are the popular songs at the time. So I started writing a few songs. I started writing things like Spaceman Sid, he's from the planet Plid. I started writing things like that, mainly for my own kids. So that when we went to these play groups, I could amuse my two boys, Joe and Harry. I could amuse them and all their little friends and have a nice time doing these music sessions at their nursery school. And then a friend who was a head teacher of a school asked if we'd come along and do a few songs for the kids there. So we said, yeah, sure, that'll be fun. And by this time, I'd got about, 20 or so kids' songs. Maybe a lot of them with actions, which was part of the fun, I guess. I mean, songs like Spaceman Said had actions. We'd have a blast off. We'd go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and get all the kids jumping in the air, which is kind of good fun. And so we went to this school and did this session, and it went down really well. And our friend Pat had some other friends who were also teachers in other schools. So she said, well, look, if I mention you to my friends, they'd like to pay you to come along to schools and do sessions there. So we thought, great. Because up to that point, I'd been playing in bands and sort of leaving home in the afternoon to go to a gig and not getting back till 3 a.m, which as a parent isn't really very good because it means that you don't see a lot of your kids. So I kind of changed my working patterns to more of a daytime pattern. So I'd stopped playing with bands late at night. I started doing work in schools during the day, which meant that I could be around in the mornings, when Joe and Harry were off to nursery and school, and I could get back home at tea time to pick them up from school. So we had a normal sort of family life. So I got more and more into doing work in schools, primary schools, and nursery schools, doing these songs. Eventually, I was contacted by a guy who worked for Meridian TV to do some theme tunes for some programs that they were making, the names of which one was called Jay's World. There are a few others. And do you know Jay's World?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, one of the guys that produced was involved with Havagazoo in the early days was also involved with Jay's World. And I wrote the thing.
Oh, no wonder. Sorry, Hamad.
I can hear noise going on, things going on there.
Hamad,
And
have you done my vacuuming?
and where was it? Oh, yeah. So I wrote a theme tune for Jay's World, and a few other things. And this chap said, well, how many children's songs have you got? And I said, I must have about 20, 30 maybe by now. And he said, well, could you write another 30? And I said, because I tend to say yes to things. It's a habit. So if somebody says, can you do something? I say, yes, of course I can do it. Even if I'm not sure I can do it, I tend to say yes. And he said, we've got this children's show coming up that we're going to make. And would you like to be in it? And could you write some more songs? So I said, yeah, sure. And he came along I did a show at my kids' school, and he came along and brought a film crew to film us just to sort of see if it was, if I was the kind of guy that could stand in front of kids and keep them amused. And I seemed to pass the audition, and that became Havagazoo. So then I went down to London. We had a meeting with Jason and Gabrielle and Joe and the production team, and then we started to formulate a plan. And they began to write some scripts and get some storylines, and that's what became Havagazoo. And then we went down to Southampton, to Meridian Television in Southampton, because I think the program was produced. It was an associated production between Channel 5 and Meridian, so we filmed it at the Meridian Studios in Southampton. And so we did that. We'd rehearse for a fortnight, and then record for a fortnight, and film for a fortnight. And that's how it happened. And of course, they decided that my character was going to be called Vo, which is a good idea, because it meant that I was acting myself. I had to learn a script or the storylines, but it was it wasn't too much like hard work, because basically I was acting at being me, which I'm very good at doing. So so that's the genesis. That's the story from starting to learn to play the guitar to actually doing Have a Kazoo, and I loved it. I mean, it was great fun being. I liked being in front of the cameras. The crew were lovely. They were a group of people who were basically dedicated to making it all work smoothly, and they took really good care of me. They treated me very well, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we enjoyed doing it. It was a good team.
And you remember when you started to film Have a Kazoo, and when the recording process actually started?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit nerve-wracking at first, because the pressure was on. I think we filmed about 3 programs a day, which is that's quite a lot of TV to do in one day. And obviously we had to learn the scripts as well. The script wasn't quite so bad for me, because a lot of my time was taken up doing the song. And some of the songs were old songs that I'd already written, like Spaceman Sid and Going Home and What We're Doing, a few of those things. And Have a Kazoo itself, I'd already written. The words they used for the theme tune weren't the original words. The original song for Have a Kazoo, it was an Early Birds, because my ex-wife and I, we would call ourselves Early Birds, and a lot of the songs were called Early Birds, like and Have a Kazoo was originally we are the band, the Early Birds band. We're not sure what we're doing. No, that's Have a Kazoo. We are the band, the Early Birds band. We had to sack the drummer because he didn't understand that we might go toot when we should go bang. Have a kazoo, have a kazoo, have a kazoo. And then we changed that to fit the Have a Kazoo words. Which went have a kazoo, we are the crew. We're not sure what we do in here, we haven't got a clue, but we'll have some fun, and so will you. Have a kazoo, have a kazoo, have a kazoo. So that's how that started life. Yeah, so the first day's filming, there was a lot of pressure, because it was the first day, and I guess I was a little bit nervous, but everybody made me feel, very comfortable. And we got it done, and it turned out okay. So yeah, that's the story so far.
So when you did Jay's World, you said you wrote the songs. Did you write the theme tune for Jay's World?
Yeah. How did that go? Oh, it was something like, I can't remember. Something like, up, 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 you'll be out of your I can't remember how it goes. It's too many years, and I haven't heard that one since. So I can't even sing that one for you.
It's actually on YouTube, believe it or not.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'll have to have a look. I'll have to remind myself, because there's been over the years I've done a lot of theme tunes. I did some work on I think called the Jellykins.
Oh yeah.
Which with Rick Mail, which was enormously good fun. And then I did the music. That was with a pal of mine, a guy called Dave Lowe, and we did Jellykins, which was called Jellybees in some countries, and then Jellykins in the UK, because I think there was an issue with they decided they looked too much like Jelly Babies, and I think they thought they were advertising Jelly Babies, but so they changed it to Jellykins. And there's another thing called Cubies that I did
that program.
Yeah. And that, but that I wasn't in those. I was doing the background music. I did the theme tunes, and then the sort of the incidental music for the sort of during the program I did, which is good fun. But there's a lot of them. I mean, like Have a Kazoo. I think there's about 72 Have a Kazoos altogether, and I'm pretty sure there were 72 Jellykins and probably 72 Cubies as well. And I think some of the Cubies are still on in some parts of the world, even now. I mean, you probably know better than I do what's still on. But I didn't know Jay's. I will look on YouTube and remind myself of what of how Jay's World goes. God, I've forgotten that one.
Did you
Yeah.
ever work with Rebecca Nagan, Ronnie Lideru, and all them lot
Who are they?
puppeteers?
Sorry, are they? Right. I don't know them.
Okay.
The only puppeteer that I knew at the time was Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So next question.
Yeah. The next question is, what was it like working with Gabrielle Bradshaw?
She was great. I mean, we didn't do an awful lot together. There was some scenes we appeared in together, but her and Jason were very good. I did more with Jason on his own, because Gabrielle sort of had her own part of the show when she was making things, and so there weren't a lot of there was some stuff that we did together, but Jason and I spent more time actually sort of reacting together, and we were in more scenes together. But they were lovely. I mean, they were good people to get along with. It was a very happy time. I mean, I remember Jason and I having sometimes when things went wrong, it got very funny with Jason. I mean, there was one time when the storyline was something like, "I've got a new phone," and let me think. And the idea is, I've got this new phone, and I'm going to get lots of work now because I've got this new phone. And excuse me, I'm just getting over some flu, so excuse all the coughing and sneezing. I'm going to have a fisherman's friend to ease my throat. Excuse me. Yeah, you can chop that bit out. Yeah, and I've got this new phone. And the idea is that I'm going to get lots of work because I've got this new phone. And then the phone was supposed to ring, and it didn't. Somebody was supposed to make the phone ring because it wasn't the actual phone was going to ring, it was the sound effects. And so Jason and I say our line, "I've got this new phone, look," and yeah. And it was supposed to ring, and it didn't ring. So we stood there going, nothing. So cut. We'll do it again. So they start filming that bit again, and we go through the whole procedure. Yeah, I've got this new phone, it's going to get lots of work. And it's supposed to ring, and it doesn't ring. And 3 times it doesn't ring. And so they're trying to make the sound effects thing work okay. And eventually it rang, and we couldn't speak. We just laughed. So, hey, whoa, look, it's finally gone. And it's those are the moments that I remember, really. Yeah, it's sometimes when things went wrong, and you have a good laugh about it. And eventually the phone rings, and it's not an agent. And I'm saying, "Oh, yeah, look at this. It's going to be a really important gig. This is going to be a really important concert." And it rings, and it's my mum on the end of the phone. You know, making sure I've got my vest on because the weather's cold. So, something like that, you know. So yeah, I mean, those are the things those are the moments that I remember. Yeah, it's the fun in between, as well as actually filming it. So yeah.
I believe that after you left Havakazoo, Watchdog came along, didn't he?
Yes, I didn't really. Obviously, I didn't have anything to do with it, so I don't think I even saw those programs. I mean, I'm sure they were very good, but I didn't actually see those at the time. Did you watch those?
Well, was on one on YouTube. I mean, it got blocked, unfortunately, or taken down.
Were they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to remember that Messi and Gabrielle made you something, didn't they, in one of the episodes?
I'm sure they did. I don't know because I mean there were so many of them.
Yeah.
I mean, something sticking in my mind. A lot of it I've kind of forgotten. But I mean, there are some up on YouTube, aren't there?
They are.
Yeah. So what was your favourite episode?
I like the episode with the song with a windmill. That's one of my favourites.
Yeah. Was that the first one?
Yes.
Yeah, it probably was, wasn't it? Yeah. I tell you what I do remember, which is quite funny. When the program started, it was a bit of a fashion. I had longer hair and my hair in a ponytail, which looked really, you know, it's not a good look. I mean, it wasn't a good look then, and it's certainly not a good look now. And they decided eventually that I shouldn't wear the ponytail. I just had my hair sort of long. And then after that, they decided that it looked a bit too scruffy. So they were going to smarten me up. So in one of the episodes, they decided I'm going to get a haircut, and I'm going to get a nice new shirt, and nice positive braces, and smarter trousers, and I'm going to have a haircut, and that was the storyline. But what they'd forgotten at the time was that there were trailers to be filmed. You know that they have a trailer on the days when the program wasn't on. There was a trailer of me and Messi outside the windmill, saying, and on next week we're going to have, we're going to be doing this in Have a Kazoo, and I'd be sat there playing the guitar in the background. Do you remember? Did you see those?
Oh yeah.
Those? Yeah. But what they had to do, because the trailers weren't filmed until the end of the series, so for the trailers before I had the haircut, I had to look like I had long hair. But the trailers were filmed at the end, after I'd had the haircut. So what they did, when I had the haircut, they kept my hair, glued it inside a hat, so I could put the cap on, and it looked like I had long hair. So for the trailers that went out after the haircut, I didn't wear the hat, and so I just had normal short hair. And for the trailers that went out before the haircut episode, I wore the hat to make it look like I still had long hair. So for a while, I had this hat with my own hair in it, which is a bit odd. Yeah. So if you look at the trailers, it looks like I've got long hair in the trailers, but actually that's it's a hat with hair stitched in it.
That was the one when Messi introduced Mr. Men, isn't it?
I don't remember. Because I was kind of sat. Excuse me, that's why my nose again. I was kind of sat in the background, just sort of playing a little bit of the guitar chords for whatever song was going to be done in that episode. So to be honest, I don't really remember what Messi was introducing, because, like I say, those were filmed separately after the filming of the main series was done, and then they inserted them.
Mm.
Yeah, kind of amusing.
Yeah. Could you tell me some of the other programs you worked on apart from Jay's World and Have a Kazoo?
Well, Jay's World, Have a Kazoo, Jellykins was extremely good fun. That was with Rick Mail, who, as you know, sadly died a few years ago. But he was brilliant. It was a joy working with him, and it was his first gig. He had a bad accident. He got badly injured. He had a quad bike accident, and he got really badly. He nearly died then. Really badly injured. It was quite a long recovery time for him. And Jellykins was the first thing he did after the accident, because he didn't require him to be very active. He narrated the program, because the Jellykins were these little sort of jelly baby type creatures. It was 3D animation. It was very cute and it was lovely. It was beautifully done. And Rick was the storyteller, as it were. So for him, he hadn't got to be very active. He hadn't got to be throwing himself around and potentially getting injured. So it was a nice way for him to get back into work. So basically, he told the stories, but we also recorded an album of some songs that my pal Dave and I wrote. We wrote the theme tune, and then we also wrote a bunch of songs for an album that came out. I think it was just called Jellykins, and Rick performed some of the songs, and that was very good fun. Excuse me. So yeah, I mean that was great. He was really great to work with. The program that came after that, The Cube, is I met the actors a few times, and most of my work was done from home, because they'd give me a copy, on the computer of the show after it had been sort of filmed or made and animated and edited together, and then I just fit the music to that. So I sort of did the music at home, played along to what the characters were doing on screen. I remember there was one time when there was a bit of a panic because it was one of the characters, it was their birthday. And they realised that because of copyright issues, they couldn't, the normal birthday song, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. They couldn't use that for copyright reasons. So I had to come up with, in a matter of seconds, a new birthday song that they could use. They're related to the Cubies. And what I came up with was Cubie Doobie Doo, happy birthday to you. Cubie Doobie Doo, happy birthday to you. Have a good time, sing and shout, blow your birthday candles out. Hit hooray, have fun on your special day. Cubie Doobie Doo, happy birthday to you. Cubie Doobie Doo, happy birthday to you. And we did that, and I went over to the studio, and the actors, sang. I taught it to them, they sang it, and that got put in at the very last moment. Yes, there was a slight panic on that day, but that was once again. It's great fun doing this stuff. It's a nice thing to be involved in.
Do you still do like music shows for like children?
No, I haven't done one for ages. I do the occasional live performance. Before lockdown, I used to do some shows at Symphony Hall in Birmingham. Right. They had some kids shows in the foyer there, and it was mostly young mums and dads and preschool kids. So I used to do some of my own songs like Spaceman Sid and Bop Bop Doo, but I also do things like Nelly the Elephant. So I used to do some songs that were around when I was a kid. Nelly the elephant backed the trunk and said goodbye to the circus. Off she went with the trumpety trump, 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 trump. So things like that. And this one, a mouse lived in a windmill in old Amsterdam. A windmill with a mouse in, and he wasn't grass. You should do that one as well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, these are good songs, and they were around when I was a kid. I mean, we're talking. I was a kid in the mid-50s. And excuse me, I had to drink of water. And there was a program on the radio called Uncle Mac's Children's Favourites, and they used to play songs like that. So it was a good program. So I still obviously remember songs, songs from way back then. And another one, if you go down in the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. Do you know that one?
I do, yeah.
Go down in the woods today, you better go in disguise. For every bear that ever there was will gather there for certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic. And I used to do songs like that as well at these live shows. And I hadn't done one for a long time, obviously, because then lockdown came along, so that put paid to that. And I haven't done a kids show now for a long, long time. But who knows? Who knows? It may happen again.
Yeah. So, Vol, thank you for chatting to me today.
It's a pleasure, mate. A pleasure.
And what I'd like to do is to finish off the podcast is to find out about what your hopes and dreams are for 2023 and what you hope to achieve this year.
Right. I just like to carry on doing gigs. As long as I'm playing, I'm happy. I mean, I'm playing tonight. I'm going over to Worcester to play at a pub over there. And I'll sing a few songs. I'll do a few old songs and a couple of new songs, and just have a good time. I've got a couple of groups I'm playing with some friends of mine, and we've got some gigs coming up. So just to keep playing. Yeah. I don't plan too far ahead. I don't have how can I say? I'm not desperately ambitious. I'm just happy to keep going. As long as I've got a guitar and there's a gig in sight, I'm sort of happy, really. So just keep on going, and keep strumming. Yep.
Well, Vo, thank you for chatting to me today.
Pleasure, and good luck with the podcast thing.
Thank you.
And take care of yourself.
You what?
And take care of yourself.
Thank you.
You're doing a grand job.
Thank
and
you.
It's nice to meet you finally as well.
Finally. Have a nice day, then.
All right. Take care, mate.
Bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye. Now I'm delighted to have with me a very special guest. Welcome to Ian Lachlan. Thank you for joining. Hello, Ian.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
Good, thank
I'm
you.
good. Thank you. You want to get? Yeah, I'm ready.
Good, Ian. Right. So, thank you for agreeing to take part in my podcast.
That's all right. No problem.
Right. What I'd always like to do is, Ian, is I'd always like to start from the very beginning, and I would like to know about your background and what led to you in presenting children's television and children's entertainment.
Right. Well, I didn't really train for that. I went to drama school in Glasgow, Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, and I did a 3-year course there. I When I left there, I started a theatre company for the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, where we toured the Highlands and Islands for 2 years with children's shows and with adult shows in the evening. Just to community centres and things like that. So I did that for 2 years, and then just decided I wanted to be, like just an actor, really. So I left there, and I just got some jobs in the circuit in Scotland as an actor. At Perth Rep, Dundee Rep, places like that. So I picked up very soon. Actually, I picked up a couple of very good telly jobs. I got a lead in a Play for Today on television, and then I got another one after that, and I got a couple of series. One called The Camerons and King's Royal and things like that. So I did quite a lot of telly. I did about 2 years of television drama in Scotland, and but they were networked. It was network stuff. And then when I moved, I decided to move south, and I auditioned for. No, actually, it was actually the director of the Belgrade Theatre in Coventry that saw me in one of the television programs and asked me if I'd come down and play John Shand in the first play of the season in 1980. So I did that, and I never really went back to Scotland. I mean, my daughter had just been born, and everything. So I moved all the family down. I never really went back, and we moved to London eventually, and and I just worked and doing reps. I couldn't get back into television down here, but when I was working at a play in the Belgrade Theatre, I worked at the Belgrade several times since, and as an actor, and one of the actors was a play school presenter. I don't know if you remember play school. It was a preschool children's series that had been on for about 25 years or something, and they don't usually do it, but they were auditioning for new people. So I decided to go and audition for a children's presenter on Play School, and I got it. They gave me 5 programs to start off with, and really that was my first foray into children's television. I sort of became a presenter on Play School, and I worked on Play School for about 9 years until the very last one, and I did the very last Play School before they axed it. So, but by that time I'd been asked to do Fingermouse series, and I was doing a lot of other series like Storytime and various things on BBC for children. So I was doing a lot of children's presenting at that time. So I kind of fell into it, really. It wasn't part of my plan, because I just really wanted to be an actor, but I kind of fell into children's presenting, and it kind of got hold of me, really. That's how I got into it.
Hmm. And also, after play school, one of the shows you did was Play Days, I think.
Yeah, well, when Play School was axed, the BBC decided they weren't going to use any of the Play School presenters in the new series, which was called Play Days, and it was a different program per day. So none of the presenters were used, but within about 3 months of it starting, I got a phone call to say, Ian, would you come and just do some stories? Not on screen, but just do some stories, just voice work, which I did do. Did a few stories for them, and then just gradually, because they were all such young presenters, very, very young and inexperienced presenters they had got. They didn't put any experienced presenters in the show to begin with, and they found that they really needed some sort of experienced presenter as well. So I started doing some stuff on Play Days, as like doing, I think it was the 10th stop I did originally as an actor, and then and roundabout stop and things like that, and then from there I got the chance to write and direct a live show for them, a Play Days live show, which they'd never done before. They'd never ever gone to a live show. So I did that. I did their very first live show, and in Wimbledon at the Polka Theatre, and from that they offered me a producer. So I started producing 3 of the 5 days for Play Days. So I became a television producer, producing the actual programs for them. I did Why Bird Stop, Roundabout Stop, and a new one we created called Poppy Stop.
Yeah, that's very interesting. What I wanted to know about Why Bird Stop, Ian, is what was it actually like, working with Nick Mercer?
Oh, Nick's lovely. Yeah, I mean, I've done quite a lot with Nick, because Nick actually, he worked with me on our own program called Fun Song Factory, which was only really made for videos to begin with. It was we thought we were only going to make one video, really. We wanted to make some video of children's songs, and he was inside Ozzy. One of our big bear, big character. Eventually, I think the first two videos we did for Fun Song Factory, I don't think we had Ozzy, and I think we introduced him at a later stage, and then that was Nick Mercer that came and joined us to do it. But yeah, Nick worked with us a few times on Play School and on Fun Song Factory. Very nice man, and great fun to work with. Yeah. Hello. Oh, I've lost. Oh, there you are. Yeah, great fun to work with. I don't know what Nick's doing now. I haven't seen him for a long time, but he was very good.
Talking about Fun Song Factory, can you remember when the second show was actually filmed? I know it would have been before pantomime season that year.
The second show. What do you mean by the second show?
Fun Song Factory 2.
That was where was Fun Song Factory 2 was done at the Chicken Shed Theatre in North London, because Liz Kitchen, who had written a lot of she did a lot of the music for Fun Song Factory. Her partner was instrumental in setting up Chicken Shed Theatre, and it was for basically children who had special needs and things like that. And we did it there. So we wanted to do theatres. That's why I went to the Polka to do the first one. I did the first one at the Polka, and then the second one we did at the Chicken Shed Theatre, because we felt we wanted to do a live show. But we discovered really that as we were doing the first two, that it's quite difficult for television. If you want to make it for television, it's you're not really in control of that to the sound and the lights and things. By the time we were to the third one, decided to do it in a studio, a television studio, but still have a live audience there. Still had a live audience of young children in the studio. So that's when we changed our minds.
So who actually starred in the second Fun Song Factory show? I know it wasn't Sarah Davison, was it?
Sorry?
Who actually starred in the second Fun Song Factory show? I know it wasn't Sarah Davison.
No, it wasn't. I think it was. It was. I'm trying to remember her name. She was lovely. Her name's gone completely out of my head.
Michelle Durler.
Yes, Michelle Durler. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
Michelle. Yes, she did it, and she's no longer alive. She's now dead. She got cancer, and a few years ago, because she married one of the sound guys we used on Tweenies, and she died of cancer just a few years ago, which was really sad. But she was fantastic. She's really lovely. Sarah Davison was fantastic. Of course, she was. I loved working with Sarah. She was a great fun. But so was Michelle, and they both did a great job. I felt they had a lot to put up with me and Dave Benson Phillips.
Yeah, talking about Fun Song Factory too, one of the children you actually worked with on that show was, Marianne Lynch.
Marianne Lynch.
Yeah.
It's one of the children, one of the Fun Song Factory children.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you know Marianne?
No, not really. I've only seen it on YouTube.
Right. Yes, yeah. I mean, all the children were fantastic. We got all the children from. My names have gone. I'm looking at my head now. Bonnie Langford's mum run a dance school.
Where's that?
Sorry, Bonnie Langford. She run a dance school in West London. Bonnie Langford's mum.
All right. Ian, I've got something I want to show you here.
Yes. Yeah, it takes me back.
And look at the back of this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you got all 7 live shows?
I'm not sure if I've got all 7, but I've got most of them, I think.
Which ones do you have?
I don't know. I'd have to check, but I mean, I should have all of them. I might very well have all of them, but I'd have to check.
Mm.
Because it was taken over. It was taken over by Universal, because it was Abbey Home Entertainment that put the money up for it. Because we went to and pitched it to them, and they put the money up for the first one. Then they decided, because they were a distributor. They distributed children's stuff around the market, and they were taken over by Universal. So Universal took Fun Song Factory over because it belonged to Abbey Home Entertainment, really. But when it came time for the DVDs, when video was going out of fashion, the Universal decided not to transfer the videos onto DVD. So it was kind of lost at that time. Can
you remember when Fun Song Factory 2 was actually filmed, like which month it was filmed in?
Fun Song Factory 2?
Yeah.
Not really, no. I can't really remember the dates we did it. No, I'm sorry, I can't remember when exactly we filmed that.
No. One of my favourite songs on Fun Song Factory 2 is Jack and Jill Went Up the Hill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We decided we wanted to do lots of traditional rhymes and songs, and just make them fun, really. Because a lot of the songs were getting lost. Parents didn't know them, and they didn't know the tune, and they didn't know the words. So that's why we decided to do it. We wanted to do kind of have a library of songs that young parents would be able to hear and know what the tunes were, and know what the words were, and all the rest of it, and the way so that they didn't get lost.
Do you remember one of the fronts on factory shows had Nick Mercer as the nursery rhyme guy?
Yeah. Yes, that's when when we did it in Capitol Studios in Wandsworth, when we started filming it there. Yeah, he became a character from the nursery rhymes. Yeah, and Nick. Um, I don't know. I've no idea what he's doing. Do you know what he's up to these days? No.
No, to be honest, I don't, unfortunately. But I saw a podcast on someone else's channel about that.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing I
Obviously,
remember about Nick Mercer was he was really into trains.
do you remember one of the episodes of Playdays, Ian, where Nick had like a big heavy box and he like put it down or something, and then he like had an accident with it or something?
Nick.
Yeah.
That must have been the tent stop.
No, Viber stop.
Or was it Wybird stop? Oh no, I don't remember that. Maybe he did that before I took it over. I can't quite remember.
Hmm.
Because it was produced by somebody else, when it first started. It was later on when I started producing them.
So can you talk about theatre now? Can you
Uh-huh.
remember if you have a favorite pantomime you did, which one would it be?
I think my favorite is, it's difficult to tell. It's either Jack and the Beanstalk or Aladdin. I think the two of them are my favorites.
Mhm. Of course, with all these restrictions out in the way, obviously pantomime was not the last 2 years or 3 years were not very festive, was it?
Well, this year was the first time for a couple of years that we managed to do a proper one, really, and I was allowed to have children and people on stage and things like that. So this year was fine. Last year it was a little bit difficult, just trying to get. I wasn't allowed children in the chorus and things like that, and everyone had to wear masks and things like that. So it was a bit difficult. But the year before that, we couldn't do it at all. But I did one in the studio. I did a digital one, a Jack and the Beanstalk in the studio, which we televised and just streamed.
Are you still in touch with any of the cast? Do you know who did Fun Song Factory, or have you lost contact with a lot of them?
I still speak to Dave Benson Phillips occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
and Sarah went to Spain, so I lost touch with Sarah. Liz Kitchen, who was a musical director, I still keep in touch with. Choreographer, who did the choreography? Well, it was different people really, but I mean, Will Brenton, who wrote it with me, who was my writing partner at the time, I still occasionally speak to Will as well. So still keep in touch with several people. Yeah.
What about from children? I know you're in touch with presenters. About children who starred in the show?
No, not really. No, but I must say that I have bumped into one or two of them when I'm auditioning for Panto, because they've grown up and they've become actors, and they're now going around doing auditioning. So they'll say to me, "I was one of the children in Fun Song Factory Boy and things like that." So it's nice to see them again and see that they've gone into the business and just have a little chat about it. So I occasionally bump into them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Dale Hodges. He starred in Fun Song Factory, didn't he?
Dale, yes, he was the smallest. He was in it. He was in a lot of them. Dale, he was a tiny little chap when he first started, and he was very, very good. Lovely little blonde chap, and he was very, very good, and a lovely little boy as well. And his mum was lovely too. So we used him quite a lot. I liked Dale. He was very good.
There were two children in the Fun Song Factory I remember called Jade as well. If you remember them, her.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, one of the children was Zara? Was it
ZZ.
Zizi?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was very good. She was the niece of what do you call her? From her mum. Her mum run the school. So she was in the family anyway, but she was very good as well. When she got old enough, she joined as well. But yeah, lovely. Most of the kids, in fact, all of the kids we had were absolutely smashing. Really worked hard.
Yeah. I seem to remember that in Fun Song Factory 2, you and Michelle performed Oranges and Lemons.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, which was quite an old song, really, and it wasn't done much, and that's what we would wanted to try and do, try and revive some of the old ones, Oranges and Lemons, and Jack and Jill to a certain extent, and things like that. So all ones which were very, very popular when
Yeah.
such a really, but we wanted to still keep them alive.
Sounds good. Yeah. So with Fun Song Factory 2, were all the children actually, from the Chicken Shed Theatre?
Only the children in the audience. The children were still from the dance school that we used. Some of the children who were in the first one came back and did the second one. Yeah.
Another thing I've noticed about Fun Song Factory 2 is obviously the three songs you sang at the beginning was, I can't remember which ones there were. I know there was a theme tune. We all clapped hands together, and then I forgot what the other one was. Mulberry Bush and This Old Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did quite a few songs in each of them because we would try to pack as many in as we could, really, because it's basically about music and about and I think that's why it was so popular. It was very popular with people with special needs as well, because they liked the music and they could move to it, and they could learn the songs. They'd just play it over and over and over again. I think that was the thing about Fun Song Factory. Children just replayed it over and over again.
Yeah. The amount of times I have a video on all the time is like fantastic, because I seem to watch it nearly all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It was we managed for Fun Song Factory 2. We managed to sort out quite a few of the problems that we found with Fun Song Factory 1. When we were doing it in the theatre. So when we did it the second one, we kind of sorted out quite a few of the problems. So it was I felt it was a better one.
Do you remember there was a horse inside the Fun Song Factory? I think it was Neddy the horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was you and Michelle inside there, wasn't it?
It was. That's right. So we got a horse costume. It was actually, I think we got that horse costume from the Belgrade Theatre in Coventry. I think they used to have an old horse costume, and but we had quite a few puppets and things in it as well.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
What was I saying to you? One of the Fun Song Factory shows I remember is one when you sang Goosey Goosey Gander. I mean, the Fun Song Factory gave you a grey beard.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I was always the one that was had to dress up in various things. Yeah, I had to do that.
So which Fun Song Factory cast did you have in the GMTV series, if you remember?
Yeah, that was new, because we got new people to do it. I wanted to present when we got GMTV series, the GMTV thing. I wanted to present it with Dave, but the producer, the executive producer at the TV at London in London didn't want me to present it. So I remember there being a bit of a row at the time. because we wanted me to do it, and she wouldn't. She said no. So I ended up producing it, and we got people like Justin Fletcher,
Mm-hmm.
who plays Mr. Tumble,
Oh yeah.
and I think Carl Woolley that we'd used a few times, and Bob Golding, I think, and I think there's quite a few that we hadn't used before, which it was different. It just felt different. It was a little bit different, the GMTV one.
Alex Lovell, she started in a few, didn't she, as well?
Yes, Alex Lovell. Yeah. Gosh, we've been through a few of them. We've worked with quite a few people on that.
Mm. Yeah. Also, about the GMTV series, they had Sally the cat. She would like change from black and white to like blue.
Yeah, Sally the cat. We used a similar cat to the one we introduced into Playdays, which was Poppy, the Poppy Stop, Poppy Stop, and we got the same girl to do the puppeteering on it, Sue. And we got another cat made similar, but a different color.
Mm. Yeah, what I've noticed about Playdays
Yeah,
Roundabout Stop.
we just introduced.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What I've noticed about Playdays Roundabout Stop was how Andy Hockley used to dress up as different characters.
Yeah. Yes, Andy Hockley was someone else we brought in. We decided to have a new Mr. Jolly when we took over. We produced the Roundabout Stop, I took over, revamped it, and got a new Mr. Jolly. And Andy Hockley is someone that I've worked with several times. In theatre, basically. He hadn't really done any telly, but I worked with him in theatre, and we got him to do Mr. Jolly, and he proved to be very good indeed, and very popular actually with the children. The Roundabout Stop was a challenge, but great fun to do.
Yeah. Now we're going to go on to our next thing, which is the Tweenies.
Oh yeah.
What I wanted to know is, I know it's a bit weird talking about it at this time of year, but what was the filming of the Christmas episodes of the Tweenies like?
Well, we did. We did 390 episodes altogether, and I wanted to. We had to do everything. We had to try because of the diversity. We had to try and do everything. You know, we had to do Hanukkah, and we had to do Eid, and we had to do Diwali and things like that, and we also did a Christmas episode as well for the Christian faith, and it was just, it's just doing a sort of kind of Christmassy version of anything is just a little bit special, but the thing which we did, which was most exciting, was we did a big Christmas show, live Christmas show with the Tweenies in the Albert Hall in London, and it was massive shows, thousands and thousands of children in the Albert Hall watching it, and that was a fantastic show. It really was. It was lovely. We used to do a lot of arena shows with the Tweenies.
Do you remember which Fun Song Factory show would you say is your favourite?
Fun Song Factory. I don't know really. I think once we moved into the studio and we had more control over things, when we moved to Capitol Studios to start filming it in Capitol Studios, I think that's when I started to feel that we got a new set, we got a bigger set, and we redesigned the whole thing, and that was when Nick Mercer joined us, and and we were able to do a lot more and a lot more televisual things in the studio than we had been able to do in the theatre. So I felt that it kind of took a leap. So I think probably the one I enjoyed most was number 3 when we moved into the studio.
That's interesting. Oh, yeah. Another thing I noticed about Fun Song Factory 2 is how naughty you and Michelle were. You know, when you hid Dave's boots and the socks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We well, it was just trying to get as much fun out of it as possible. You know, that's the main thing, and I think that was, as well as doing just the songs. It was important that we we had a bit of fun with it for the children. You know, so that keep watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. Was Fun Song Factory 2 actually filmed in 1995 or 6, if you remember?
95, I think. 95, 90. Yes, it must have been about 95, I think, because we did some in the studio.
So Ian, for some reason, I think the Wi-Fi seems to be having a lot of glitches for some reason. I don't know if it's your end or if it's my end or anything.
I'm not seeing that at all. I mean, at all.
No. I've got something else I want to show you, Ian. It's this. Remember this video?
Nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
Yes, is that the one when I did the old woman who lived in the shoe?
No. This is a different one. This is a Makaton Nursery Rhymes.
Oh, it's Makaton. Oh yeah, with Dave Benson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Makaton was a good thing to do because that was before Justin picked it up, I think. Because Justin became very popular with the Makaton, but we had done the video before Justin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a number of videos there then.
I have, yeah, and also I got all 7 Fun Song Factory. Well, not all 7 because I don't have Old MacDonald's Farm, but I do have Fun and Games. If you remember that one.
Yes, I do. yes. Old MacDonald's Farm was a really fun one to do because we went. Yes, that was very good. Because we went from we skipped from location to studio all the time. It was very good.
I was thinking, another good podcast would probably be a group interview. You know, like where I talk to you and Dave Benson Phillips at the same time.
Yeah. I don't know how busy Dave is these days, but I'll just kind of talk to him occasionally. Really, sometimes bump into him.
All right. How's he doing?
I think he's doing well. He's doing all right now. I think he had a hard time at one point because somebody was posting terrible things about him on the internet, and it affected his career, I think. But I think he's doing all right now.
Do you remember doing Christmas at the Fun Song Factory?
Yeah.
That one must have been great fun to do.
That was lovely because we did some nice Christmas songs, like Who's Coming on Christmas Night. We did. I remember Sarah doing All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth and things like that. So
oh, that was good, wasn't it? Yeah.
So it was very good. She was excellent in it. So is Old MacDonald's Farm the only one you haven't got?
Yeah, at a moment, but I've got Fun Song Factory 1, 2, 3, Party Time, wasn't it, that one? And what was the 4th one? Was the 4th one Christmas Time?
Yeah.
Yeah, Christmas Time, I've got that one. And what was the other one? Oh, goodness. Christmas
7 altogether, wasn't there?
Yeah, 7.
Yeah. Yeah, so what else is I'll have to have a look and see what I've got. So I might if I've got a spare copy of Old MacDonald, I'll send it to you.
Thanks, Ian. That'd be good. Yeah.
I'll have a look.
Yeah. There was somebody called Rebecca in that pantomime as well. If you, it's sorry, Fun Song Factory. If you remember that,
Rebecca.
Griffins, I think her surname is.
Oh yeah, Rebecca Griffins. No,
No.
I don't remember Rebecca Griffins. I can't remember now. I can't remember Rebecca.
No.
Um,
Ian,
yeah.
I was wondering what songs do you? I know it's going back a bit, but which songs do you remember from Fun Song Factory 2?
Oh dear. I can't remember now. It's difficult to. They all kind of merge into one, really. Now, I'm not sure what we did, and I remember the songs in one more, clearer than I do in two.
Yeah.
Because I remember, yeah. Because I mean, when we did Fun Song Factory 1, we chose very carefully the songs because we thought we were only going to make one,
Yeah.
and then when we got another one, we had to choose some songs. I just can't remember now what we did now. I'd have to listen to it. I'd have to watch it again.
One of the shows you did was songs you did was I'm driving in my car.
All right. Did we do a transport thing?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. And that's right. Just trying to extend the songs that to put down on video really for our parents really. That's we were just trying to find things which might suit.
Mm. I was actually watching a Play School episode that you starred in last night.
Play School.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it was the one when you had that donkey, and you sang this Christmas song.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many gone by now. I can't remember.
Yeah. Do you remember working with Wayne? Wayne.
Wayne Jackman.
Yeah.
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 He was lovely. I really liked Wayne. He was a magician.
Mm.
He used to do a lot of magic, Wayne, and but Wayne and I wrote a sitcom together. It was never ever done. It was never ever put on, but we wrote one together. Yes, Wayne was lovely. He was great.
He also
I don't know what he's up to. He used to live in Brighton.
Yeah. He also starred in All Sorts, didn't he? If you remember that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He did. Oh, he did quite a number of things. Wayne. He got started into children's, but as I say, he started off being a silly magician. Doing all sorts of silly things. Trying to remember the name of his character that he did. I can't remember now. But yeah,
Dr. Wacky.
Dr. Wacky, that's the one. Yeah, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Dr. Wacky. Yeah. Yeah, he that's how he started. And then he got into children's stuff. Yeah, we got on very well.
Yeah, Fun Song Factory GMTV series was my favorite, but one of my favorite songs is, This Is the Bread That Jack Built.
Yeah.
If you remember that one.
Yeah. But so by the time we got there, I mean, we were struggling for new songs and stuff, because we'd done so many in Fun Song Factory by that time. I remember we were struggling. And we reused some songs, but yeah. It was very much up to GMTV what they wanted in it. Really, we kind of gave them what they wanted. Really.
Yeah. Well, Ian, it's been a joy to chat to you today.
Well, it's been lovely meeting you. I mean, it really has.
Thank you, Ian.
And thank you for doing this for me. Thank you. It's very nice of you. And as I say, I'll have a look and see if I've got a spare one of Old MacDonald, and I'll send it off to you. I'll email you and get your address if I've got one. Okay.
Yeah, what I was thinking, I maybe might do another podcast, but maybe with you, Will, and Dave, if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Yeah,
have a
well,
nice.
see if you can arrange get everybody.